Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Boz, and I am about to share the preface and the first few minutes of the book I just released, Keto Continuum. Let's get started. So preface. As a doctor, the number one question I get from patients facing a scary choice in medicine is, Doc, what would you do? My first book, Any Way You Can, told the story of what happened when my 71-year-old mother, dying of cancer, asked me that question. Her story of courage, faith, and tenacity sold nearly 100,000 copies and inspired many to improve their health through the lessons in that book. Keto Continuum arose from the protocol I use within my clinic to help patients stay consistently keto. I teach keto chemistry to achieve optimum health within my patients. My favorite way to teach is through storytelling and keto support groups. Storytelling matters. Any Way You Can offered an excellent tool to introduce ketosis. Grandma Rose's intimate story filled the reader with compassion for her while they accidentally learned about ketones. Keto Continuum takes that education to a higher level. Although the two stories are linked, Any Way You Can is not a prerequisite for Keto Continuum. Keto Continuum maps out the medical protocol for getting patients consistently keto. In an attempt to reach students through optimal forms of learning, Keto Continuum is shared in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. Also, the condensed version of the information is taught in the online course Consistently Keto through short videos and worksheets. The Keto Continuum workbook augments the content by facilitating the lessons. When a patient documents their progress, it helps them to take ownership of their keto journey. Medical advisors appreciate the engaged, educated patient who presents with a workbook filled with helpful information. The more educated the patient, the stronger the medical team. The publication of this book took longer than expected. 2020 swept pandemic and death through my community and my life. The setbacks seemed to multiply as weeks turned into months. My motivation to persevere wavered. Through the grace of God and the applied neuroscience found in the pages of this book, my thoughts have been put into words. If you are motivated to change your health, this book maps out the optimal plan for a life filled with energy, improved healing, the reversal of chronic inflammation, and more. Use Keto Continuum to improve the health of your community one ketone at a time. Let's give you the first part of Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is titled David. Friday afternoon. David's lazy eyes drifted towards the clock. 3:30 p.m. How could the day drag like this? He considered leaving, call it a week, give up the fight for another week. The glamour of being boss for 40 years, photographing senators, presidents, priests, and thousands of families, had lost its luster. The grind wore off the shine of that title. David reigned as the best in the business and had the Rolodex to prove it. You could document the influential people in the region just by looking through his pictures. From the famous to the ordinary, David knew their names, their titles, their relatives, social status, and even their ex-wives. He knew every branch of their family tree and their history. 4 decades had made him a bit of a legend. Friday afternoon Mass started in about 30 minutes. He could use that excuse to escape again. The last 3 Masses, David fell asleep. But at least he got a chance to escape the office, away from the reality of his 7th decade of life. At the church pancake breakfast last week, Father had asked, "You okay, David?" "Yep," David lied through the heaviness of his fatigue. These days, David could fall asleep faster than his basset hound. In the minutes he played with these thoughts, his eyelids slouched half open. He glanced at the stack of unfinished jobs needing attention. David hadn't touched them since Tuesday of last week. He should have tackled the lurking problems hiding in that pile weeks ago, maybe even longer. But David couldn't get his mind to focus. The sludge of pushing his thoughts to do the slow part of the job proved too heavy, not fun, daunting, burdensome, and most of all, boring. Aside from the creative part of his career, this process suffocated him. "Buckle down," he scolded himself. "Just do it." David muttered those internal words often, yet the unfinished work piled on. His business needed to push rewind. The focused, dynamic version of his mind had dissolved and his creativity slipped into history. Without a miracle, his photography doors would close. Joy used to fill David's chest every time he ignored the world and peered through his lens. Until recently, the colors of life sprung alive inside the tunnel of a camera. Now, discouragement and gloom draped like a gray film over him. Shades of grim took hostage over every corner of his life. Along with the muted color, his thoughts lost their way somewhere in his head. Was this what it felt like to be 61? Was it depression? Maybe the economy? Or was there something really wrong with him? David sat there staring at his pile. Thoughts wandered to yesterday's photo shoot, and embarrassment pushed away the memory of his mistake. How could I have done that? He growled at himself as the pit of his stomach jerked from the backside of his belly button. He called the senator's wife Martha instead of Marcia. A mere slip of the tongue, except that Martha was the senator's ex-wife. Ouch, he knew that. He pressed his hands to his cheek, rubbing away the memory. The mistake betrayed his reputation, so out of character. When David got nervous, he rambled. Nervous chatter would trot off his tongue like a prepubescent boy on his first date. But lately, he couldn't shut up. His mouth rattled out of control all the time as if possessing a mind of its own. Recently, a flash of anxiety wouldn't dissipate. Instead, it hijacked his thoughts and blocked all thinking. A whisper of fear galloped down his neural circuits and triggered his babbling talk box. The world excused a prepubescent boy who talked out of control, but not David. The blessing of his acquired status mandated the control of his mind. If you listened carefully, you could hear the rate of his speech slow down as the thought formulated into words. Messages left one section of his brain and ran out of fuel before arriving at their destination. His ideas rambled at a high speed and then faded before they were fully formed. In the rare moments when twitches of inspiration sprung into his head, they flickered away as fast as a hummingbird in June. That's just a taste of David's beginning. Join me in Keto Continuum as you learn more about David and how he unpacks the unhealthy things going on deep inside his mitochondria. You'll be cheering him on by the end. I hope you love it. Dr. Boz, improving your health, one ketone at a time.